Now, I think we've kind of, well, I don't think we've different because we really haven't like gave concrete thoughts on how we want that to play out. I think personally it's going to start out with them rotating those guys, honestly, man. Just because they're all so young. Not Cam Sutton. I'm talking about James Pierre, Justin Lane, Antoine Brooks, Mark Gilbert. I think that whoever emerges in week 1, I do think we're going to see multiple guys be used early on until somebody just officially takes that by the reins and say, hey, man, this is my spot. And you're not going to get that necessarily in training camp. You're not going to get that all the way in preseason. That happens in game. That happens building trust when you can see this guy constantly making play after play. Now you're like, I feel very confident in this guy under the big lights. I'm not worried about this being a flash in the pan or him being a practice guy. Because we've seen guys that look like practice All-Americans. We've seen guys that shine during preseason. Then when it's, this isn't Joe Schmo from South Texas Community College. This is Odell Beckham you're lined up against. Guys, some guys, they get the deer in the headlight looking. You can tell he's like, oh, man. And that's when you get nervous.
Another thing I forgot to bring up because of the timing with OTAs, if we see some of these dudes starting to step up, like they said in this article, Mark Gilbert, James Pierre, if the coaches see this improvement or at least see that, hey, I think we can roll with these guys, that means we don't have to sign a cornerback then. Very so I think that's why this is also important too with the OTAs timeline.
Very true, man. Very true. And like I said, because all of that is going to be happening within the next week or the next couple of weeks. Since, like I said, minicamp will end this Thursday. Once that happens, that's when the team will go back, evaluate all this tape from these players, and obviously tune into our show and listen to our opinions because they know we got the most valid opinion out there. But after they done doing all their research and homework, then they're going to decide, all right, which one of those guys they want to keep or if they should go shopping in terms of Richard Sherman, Morgan Moses, those type of guys, right? We've been talking about their names. Malik Hooker is another guy. We've talked about these guys. Some of these guys have come in and taken visits as well. Once minicamp is over, those next couple of weeks prior to training camp starting is when we could see that type of movement happening. And that will solely be based on how these guys perform during OTAs and during minicamp. So stay tuned.
Now, I don't know if this is completely a stretch. You talked about rotating the cornerbacks a little bit. With Mark Gilbert, who I think both of us were pretty high on, he seems more like an outside cornerback. Could that mean if we're rotating him? Now, this is why it seems like a stretch, just because he's an undrafted free agent. But we saw what he did in college where he could be a second or third round talent. If that was the case, outside of all the injuries, is that too crazy for him to maybe step in for maybe 10, 11, 12 plays if we're doing this rotation thing where he's outside, we bump Cam Sutton back in the inside?
No, I don't think it's out of there. I think it's more so if he shows that he can handle it, you go with that because this is the thing that's unique about Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton, we love his play. We're confident in his play from a slot corner standpoint. It's only been, I think, 2, maybe 3 games total where he's played predominantly outside. But even in those games, he would still bump into slot corner on possession downs. So it's no guarantee that he can even be the guy snap in and snap out over 17 weeks. So that's why I'm saying, like, Mark Gilbert is definitely going to be in that conversation. If Mark shows that he could be the better outside corner, he could be the outside corner. And then Cam will go back to being the predominantly slot guy. Like, the money that they pay to him, it shows the flexibility that they have like that. It's like, hey, we respect you. We're confident. We know you can do this. But if you can do this as well, the length of the contract shows that we can pay you to do that if you prove that you could do that. But that's what this year is for Cam Sutton. Whereas Mark, if Mark says, man, I'm nice at outside corner, man, you better go out there and be the best outside corner you could be, because if you are, it's an open competition over there. And that's the thing. Like, just because Cam got the contract, that money doesn't guarantee that he's going to be treated like Joe Hayden. Joe, Joe's going to be the starter out there. Even if he has a terrible offseason, a terrible preseason, he's still going to be that guy for the first couple of games minimum, just because of the money. Whereas with Cam, his money isn't the same. So guaranteed to be on the team, yes. Guaranteed to have a role on defense, absolutely. But there isn't a guarantee that he's just going to walk in and be the guy at outside corner. So Mark Gilbert, Shakur Brown,
James Pierre,
all those guys, they're all in that competition out there. That's the biggest thing that, like, I've been trying to talk about this all season. Like, it is not a guarantee that Cam is the guy, because we don't know if he can do it to that extent just yet. Now, he's played well, and I'm confident he's going to continue to play well, but it's definitely very open, man.
That's what I mean. Out of the bunch, though, it seems like Mark Gilbert would be that guy for the outside corner, right? Shakur Brown.
See,
slot.
I think James Pierre.
You like Pierre better.
I like
or not better, but maybe those two are in competition for outside.
And Justin Lane, because like I said, all three of those guys are built for outside corner, and all three of them bring something different. We know Mark was very productive, but like you talked about the injuries, right? That's the question mark with him. With Justin has all of the talent in the world. He's probably the most talented of the bunch, but we know he isn't as productive, and at times he mentally looks like he's out of position, just lost. Whereas with James Pierre, James probably the least athletic of the three, right? In terms of him, Justin Lane, and Mark Gilbert. James Pierre is probably the least athletic, but at the NFL level, the most productive and probably the most pro-ready right now, just based on what we've seen on tape from him. Always in position, always understanding the call, knows where his hope, knows when to take chances. The problem is, like I said, athletically, he's a little limited. So you're going to run into some things with that. Each of those three guys that I just named all have positive things about their game that you would love for them to be out there. And they all have negative aspects. It's just like, I don't know if I'm going to be as comfortable with that. But that's why this competition is literally wide open. Cam Sutton has the head start, but as a whole, all of those guys are going to be in that mix, man.
Well, we got James Pierre and Mark Gilbert getting a head start, though, based off the reports at OTAs. So,
well, they don't have the head start. Cam Sutton has the head start.
I guess so.
Cam got the check.
No, that's true. That's true. But I guess out of that bunch, and that's why I asked the question, it was like, is Cam Sutton automatically the lockdown outside corner where these guys are competing for slot corner? Or is it going to, whenever we're talking rotations, it could be rotation of not only players, but the positions as well.
But I will caution everybody this on the reports. Couple things that go into the reports. Now, typically they can't even report everything that goes on unless it was confirmed by the person on offense and the person on defense in terms of particular plays. Now they can say, hey, this guy's been impressive as a whole, but we can't get into the specifics and particulars. But the reason why I throw that caveat out there is this. We could be talking about Marcus Gilbert having a amazing OTA, right? But because I can't give you that detail, what if the caveat is this? Marcus looks great, but Marcus has been going against Josh Dobbs and the 3rd/4th team receivers. Whereas James Pierre and Justin Lane, they struggle a little bit, but they're going against Ben, Dwayne, or they're going against Ben, Juju, Chase Claypool. Our mindset is going to be different. We're going to say, well, if they were competitive and struggle just a little bit, but they're going against those guys, I like them a lot better than this guy who's dominating the threes. But that, not saying that that's the case, but just in terms of when we read the reports, just remember the caveat of we don't know all that info before we start crowning. Because I know you was about to get the crown going, man. I heard you flirting with it.
Well,
I heard you flirting with it. And I just know, especially how
I like reps, Gilbert. I like Pierre too.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I just know how the reps, how they do that. Typically, it's a pecking order in terms of money guys, draft pick guys who've been in the system. Then it's the late round guys. Then it's the undrafted guys. So just the amount of reps, the people that they typically go against. That's all I'm saying. Big picture.